Hello everyone, my name is Shambhavi. Hope you all are doing well. So now today we'll be discussing about that how to the demon threads actually work and basically and how non-demon threads work during and what is the execution for that procedure. Right, so our topic for today's discussion is that an example to show how demon threads behave over non-demon threads during program execution. Right, this is the topic which we are going to discuss today. So, before discussing out this topic, in the previous video, what we had seen about the program of non-demon threads, and we had seen the definition that what are actually demon threads and non-demon threads and all these things we had actually seen, right? So, let me just give you a quick revision of the previous things that we have discussed, and I'll be moving towards the new ones for now, okay? So, here we start up. The threads which are always going to running in the background that provide supports to main or non-daemon threads, those background executing threads are considered as daemon threads. Now, basically there are threads which are always running out. Okay, in the background those threads always run out, right? So that provides and why basically they run in the background so that to support the main or non-daemon threads, right? So there are multiple threads which are always going to run in the background, and why? Because that provides the support to the main or non-daemon threads, and that threads which execute at the background, those threads are actually called as daemon threads, right? This is the definition for the daemon threads, that what actually are daemon threads, right? Hope first of all you just remember out this definition which we have actually seen out in the previous video, right? Now, after that we had even seen one program in which I had done this program. We'll discuss about this program afterwards, okay? First of all, let me just again go on to this particular file where I have just write out the question for today, and let's discuss about this thing, right? We'll be discussing about an example to show how daemon threads behave over non-daemon threads during program execution, right? Let us begin. So the very first thing that I am gonna do here is that I would be first of all making out my importing out my threading module. Okay, and from that threading module I'll be importing out all of the functions. So for that I would write from threading import, and here goes the asterisk. So threading is basically my module that I am using, and this asterisk actually refers to the function. So the very first line which I have written here, this actually means that threading is the module which I am using, and from that module I am importing all the functions which I have into this particular module. Now, previously what happened that whenever you just want to use the threads or to make the threads into your program, you simply wrote out import thread and that actually worked. But as soon as the Python 3 has came, you cannot do this thing like this, okay? If you just want to make out the threads, if you just want to use out the thread, so in that case you need to use out the threading module only. So the Python 3 does not support the thread module, it simply supports out the threading module. This is how we go, okay? So I have written out that from threading import string, and after that I'll be even using out my time module. So for that case I have written import time, right? This is all what I have written here for importing out my modules which I'll be using throughout my program. Now coming down, what I'll be doing is that I'll be making out a function here for me, okay? So that is def. Def is a keyword which is used to make out the function, right? So I'm just writing here def, and I'll just write here that let's say first underscore thread, that is my function name which I have made. Okay, def is the keyword which I have used for making out the function, and the function name is first underscore thread that I have actually made out here, fine. After that, basically what I would just do here is that I would be applying out a for loop. Okay, this program is a little bit similar to the previous program only, but there are some new things here to discuss upon that we'll be using out here, okay? So now I would just write here for, now my loop goes that for, let's say for A, okay? So for A in range, and into the bracket I would put on my range, let's say that is 4, right? So this is how we apply the for loop, right? That we just put out a value into the between after the for and before in, that will actually refer to the indexing which I am having. So for A in range and into bracket I put out a value. So the number of the basically what is the value I have put inside the bracket, my for loop will execute that much number of times, right? So this is why we just put out a value here. Fine. Inside this I'll be putting out and printing out my thread that let's say first thread is here. uh, let's say this is the statement which I wanted to print, that first thread is here, right? This is the first thread only which we are making and name from a function as well as first thread. So I can just put on here that the first thread is here. Now after this, what I can just do is that I can simply write time dot sleep. Now this is what the reason that why I have imported out the time module above, because I just wanted to use out the sleep function from my time module. Now what does the sleep function actually do? Does the whatever number of seconds you're gonna give inside the bracket, it will stay for that much of seconds and then display your second statement. Then again it will display like a stay for the number of sub seconds, then it will again display a third statement. This is how the sleep function actually works. One more very important thing to keep in mind regarding the sleep function is that in the sleep function, whatever the value you just give out inside the brackets, that are always in seconds actually. Okay, like basically they what is the value you are going to give, what is the time value you are going to give inside this, it is in the seconds. Now if you just want to convert that into minutes, you need to multiply that by 60. By default it takes a seconds only, right? So I would just put on the bracket here and I will just write, let's say I am having 4 seconds. Okay, let's say my value for my seconds is 4. Fine, my function, if I have completed out my function which I wanted to make out here. Now what I would just do is that I would be making out my thread. Okay, so my thread, let's say my T1 is my thread. Okay, that I have made out T1 is the thread. Now into this I'll be using out my thread function, which will come from my threading module, right? So thread, and into the bracket I'll be writing target. Now target is the parent, it is a parameter in which we just call out our function, right? My function name is first underscore thread. So whenever we just make, okay, spelling for thread is not correct, THREAD, right? So whenever we just want to call out the function and you're making out the thread, so we just call out the function inside this target parameter. Okay, we just make out the thread, and inside that thread we have a parameter which is target. I just make out that parameter, and what I just do is that I just simply call out my function here, right? That I have even done at this particular place as well. Now what I would just do is that I would be changing that T to daemon thread. Okay, my T1 which I had made here, that is my variable that's actually storing out my thread. So now I'll be changing out that variable to the daemon thread. Okay, to the daemon. So how to do that? I would just write here T1 dot, and I would just write set daemon. This is how. Okay, after this T1 I just need to put out a dot, not the comma. Yes, so T1 dot set daemon, and into the bracket I'll be passing here as boolean value which is true. This is how you set out, basically you change the your variable in which you have stored your set to the daemon. Okay, so this is how you do. You put out the variable in which you have stored out your thread. For me that is T1. I will put out a dot here. After that I will be using a function that is set daemon. Okay, and into the bracket I'll be passing here as true. So true means to like basically change out the thread to the daemon. Hey, this is what I have done. Now after this, what I would just after this what I would just do is that I would be starting out my threading. Thread. So for starting out my thread, I will be writing T1 dot, and here goes the start, right? Here T1 goes the start. Start is basically the function which is used to start out your thread, right? So I just wrote here T1 dot start. After this, I would just write time dot sleep. Okay, I just want to once again give some time for sleep. So that is, let's say 3. So I just put out the time dot sleep. As you know the rules for the sleep function, that the sleep is one of the functions which come in the time module. So whenever you just want to use that out, first of all, you need to import out the time module. Second thing goes that whatever the value you are going to pass inside the bracket, that will automatically be treated in the seconds. Okay, if you just want to make it to the minutes, you can just multiply it by 60, right? But by default it will take in the seconds only. Fine, and after this I would just use out one of my print statements, and let's say that print statement is that let's say main thread. Okay, main thread is here. Main thread is here, right? This statement is what is the statement which I just wanted to print out. So just put out the statement at the last, which is main thread is here. right? Let me give you an overview of the program. After that, we'll be running this out, right? So I have used out my threading module, and from threading module, I've imported out all of the functions which I have. So when you want to import all the functions, we use the R-string. After that, I want to give out some sleep time, so I've imported the time. Now, if you just do not want to give out some sleep time, simply you can remove this import time module from here, and simply you can remove out this statement. That doesn't too much matter. That if you just like want to give, then pass on. Otherwise, leave that like this only. Okay. After that, made out a function that is div, and the function name is first underscore thread. Okay, my function name. I applied a for loop that for a in range, and my range which I gave here is 4. So basically my loop will run 4 times into this. And the statement which is first thread is here, this will be printed 4 times to me, and the difference between them will be 4 seconds. So the first statement will be printed, after that it will stay for 4 seconds, then the second statement will be printed, after that it will stay again for 4 seconds, then the third, and it goes like this. Right, after that I made out a variable that is t1, and into that I just made out my thread. Fine, and the thread, inside that thread I just used out my parameter which is the target parameter, and in that target parameter I just called out my function. So my function name was post underscore thread, so I just called out that thing here. Now, please make sure not to put out the brackets after this, because if it's going to put out the brackets, it will basically not result to the correct answer. Okay, so make sure not to put out the brackets. And after that, here I had used t1.setDaemon. So now here what I'm just doing is that I am changing my t1, my variable in which I have stored my thread, to that daemon. So this is what I am doing here, right? So t1.setDaemon, and here in the bracket I just passed true. After that, I started my thread, that is t1, and after that even I just give out some sleep time as well, and printed my last statement, that is main thread is here. Now if I just run this out here, let's run it. Now see what I'm getting first thread is here and the main thread is here, right? Now whatever the range I would put inside, that doesn't match us actually, right? Because here I have set it out as a daemon thread, right? So that is why I'm getting first thread is here, and after that I'm getting the main thread is here, right? So this is how you'll be getting out the output for this particular program. Hope you have got out the idea for this program, that how to use out this, and basically how to use an example to show daemon threads behave over non-daemon threads during program execution. Right, so here we just used one new thing, that was set daemon, right? This one function we used out a new one here, right? So basically I hope that you have got a clear and a fair idea regarding this topic. So this is all for this video. Till then, thank you and take care.